Remember, the breathing system is the first physical system under the psyche. Your breathing system is immediately responsive to any indications of stress, pain, or threat. So if you're breathing too fast or too slow, what does that mean? A healthy person's respiratory rate at rest should be 6 to 10. Just to show you how sick we are, physiology texts say 16 to 18 is normal. I've tested thousands and thousands of people. I've never met a healthy human being at rest that had a breathing rate higher than 6 to 10. I could go into a much longer explanation of why that is and why that's important, that 6 to 10 ratio, but I don't have time. And I talk about it in Czech Institute lectures where I talk about biological oscillators, which is your brain, your heart, and your gut system. So when you're breathing too fast or too slow, it's a chief indicator of a stress response. And research done years ago showed that there's two basic types of people: type A people, which are easily angered and flustered, and type B people, which repress their stress reaction. What the research showed is that type A people have a sympathetic response to stress, a fight or flight reaction, high blood pressure, elevated heart rate, sweating, flush in the face. What we typically know when someone's irritated, we can tell by looking at them. Type B people have the opposite response. Their blood pressure lowers, their heart rate slows down, and they actually go into themselves like a turtle pulling into a shell and have the opposite, the absolute opposite response. There's a lot more type A's out there than type B's. So put another way, your extroverts are type A's, your introverts are type B's. I was married to an introvert for 17 years who is a competitive marathon runner and a hardcore athlete. And her reaction to stress was the opposite of mine. She would shut down, get quiet, and could never express herself. And I was very expressive. And it's very hard for me to be married to a person who couldn't tell me what was wrong. It was driving me crazy. Breathing too fast or too slow can often mean that your diet is causing autonomic nervous system imbalance. So that should be SNS, parasympathetic imbalance. Processed sugar is one of the most dangerous things you can put in your body because it immediately acidifies your blood. Your body uses oxygen to alkalinize your blood. So the instant you eat processed sugar, your body has to speed the breathing mechanism up to try to neutralize the pH of your blood, because your blood has to be extremely tightly regulated in pH at 7.35 or you'll die, put it simply. So the body protects the pH of the blood very, very carefully. Anytime you eat any small, even a small amount of processed sugar, remember the average can of soda pop has approximately 12 teaspoons of sugar in it. The average American drinks 3 cans of soda pop a day. You're talking about 36 teaspoons of sugar. That will fuck your breathing rate up so bad that it'll have a huge influence on how your autonomic nervous system regulates all aspects of your body and can lead to pain from head to toe, meaning any type of pain. Then we have structural and postural imbalances. Anything such as chronic forward head posture that disrupts your body's ability to ventilate will disrupt your breathing apparatus. Faulty exercise programs lead to motor and structural imbalance and sympathetic dominance all the time. I've been hired by many professional sports teams due to so many of their top athletes having chronic reoccurring injuries, and I tracked it back in almost every case to very dysfunctional exercise programs that the athletes were being forced to do. I could tell you horror stories. If we have too much toxicity in our body, the breathing system will speed up because the breath system is an organ of detoxification. You all know that people get bad breath. Sometimes we do. That's because breathing is an outgassing system for toxins in the body. Hormonal changes, toxicity, and imbalance, whether it could be exogenous or endogenous hormones, means exogenous hormones coming from the outside, such as pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, glyphosate, things in body care products, hair care products, etc., asbestos, mercury, or endogenous imbalances inside of our body. Fungal and parasite infections can change the breathing rate because they're poisoning you on the inside of your body. And all inflammatory syndromes produce excess heat and change the biochemistry and pH of your body, which regulate the breathing system. If your breathing system's off, it disrupts your body's ability to pump, to cultivate energy, to regulate pH, to calm your mind, and it leads to, if you knew how many drugs were being prescribed and surgeries being done for problems that are the result of a faulty breathing pattern, it would shock you. It's billions of dollars a day, all because people are not breathing properly and they're making mistakes here that disrupt the breathing system. Skin, common sources of skin problem, being too toxic, hormonal changes, especially during phases of growth, toxicity, imbalance, again, exogenous, endogenous. So the skin is responsive to the hormonal system. If your skin's not clean, you'll have skin problems. Digestive weaknesses, such as hydrochloric acid and enzyme depletion, which comes from eating too much dead food that doesn't have hormones in it. If it's pasteurized or cooked, it's enzymatically dead, which leads to the incomplete breakdown of foods that end up being excreted through the blood system in the skin. Too much sugar will show up in your sweat and urine, and it attracts microorganisms. For example, in wars in regions like Vietnam, where there's a lot of mosquitoes and a risk of malaria, they commonly feed the soldiers a lot of garlic because they sweat the garlic out and it repels the bugs. So there's an example of how the garlic comes right out through your skin, and it's the same with many different toxins as well, and it leads to skin problems. Fungal and parasite infection, fatty acid imbalance, dehydration. Each of your glands and organs has reflex zones to the skin. So sometimes people will get a rash, say just on their forearm or just on their right chest. As soon as I see a rash in a local region like that, I have books that show me which organ reflexes to that zone. So whenever you have a localized rash or skin reaction, you should think what organ reflexes to that zone. And then you have psychological responses because, for example, the small intestine reacts to criticism. So people are sensitive to criticism often have dysfunction in their small intestine. And once the small intestine's not working properly, you have undigested food particles getting through into the liver, which then get into your blood, and your immune system attacks it. And where your capillary beds diffuse into smaller and smaller capillaries, your capillaries around joints and in your skin are so small that only one red blood cell at a time can fit through, but your average undigested food particle can be 5, 6, 10 times that size. So undigested food particles can actually clog the capillary system, and the immune system will come in at night, release natural killer cells and strong chemicals to break that food down as though it was an invasive organism that can cause skin rashes and pimples and all sorts of stuff like that.